Sarah Thompson and Mark Evans, two lives forever entwined by love, heartbreak, and a chilling desire for revenge that would tear an entire family apart. What began as a youthful romance ended in a nightmare no one in Millbrook could have imagined. This is the story of a revenge so dark it shattered lives and shocked a peaceful town to its core. In the peaceful town of Millbrook, the Thompson family was well known and deeply respected by the community. John and Linda Thompson had built a life filled with love, hard work, and dedication to their daughter, Sarah. From a young age, Sarah showed promise, bright, determined, and full of dreams. Her parents supported her every step of the way, encouraging her education and ambitions. Neighbors often remarked on how close-knit and caring the Thompsons were, a family that seemed untouched by hardship or conflict. They lived in a cozy house on Maple Street, a quiet suburban area lined with tall oak trees and white picket fences. The streets were safe, children played outside, and families shared friendly greetings across lawns. It was a place where everyone knew each other, and trouble was almost unheard of. Sarah was preparing to graduate from college. Her plans were clear. She wanted to become a social worker, to help others in need, inspired by her own family's kindness. She had a small circle of friends and was well liked by professors and classmates. Despite her busy schedule, she always made time for her parents, visiting them regularly and sharing her hopes and fears. Her life seemed bright and full of promise. But beneath the calm surface of this idyllic life, a shadow was creeping closer. Mark Evans lived on the edge of Millbrook, in a rundown apartment complex at the other side of town. Mark's life had taken a very different path. Years ago, he had dated Sarah briefly during high school. Their relationship was short-lived but intense, ending with heartbreak that left Mark bitter and angry. After the breakup, Mark struggled to find direction. He dropped out of college, lost jobs, and became isolated from friends and family. His bitterness festered into obsession. Mark was unable to move on from Sarah. He followed her on social media, watched her daily routine from a distance, and kept track of her friends and family. No one in the town suspected that this quiet man, who kept mostly to himself, was harboring a dangerous grudge. Mark's neighbors sometimes noticed him pacing late at night, muttering to himself or scribbling notes in a worn notebook. His apartment was filled with newspaper clippings about Sarah and her family, along with photos he had taken secretly. Mark spent hours planning in silence, consumed by thoughts of revenge against the woman he blamed for his failures. His fixation grew darker over time, feeding on every disappointment and rejection he faced. One cool autumn evening, just as the leaves began to turn gold and red, Mark was seen walking near the Thompson home. He lingered in the shadows of the street, watching the house with a cold, calculated stare. Some neighbors noticed him, but thought little of it, dismissing him as a harmless wanderer or someone lost on his way. No one could have imagined what Mark was planning. Sarah was unaware of the danger closing in. She had no reason to fear anyone. Her world was safe, surrounded by people who loved her. That night, the town of Millbrook settled into sleep, unaware that a storm was about to break. Mark's obsession had reached a boiling point, and he was ready to act on the dark thoughts that had consumed him for years. The peaceful life of the Thompsons, a family once admired and loved by all, was about to be shattered in a way that would shock the entire community. Mark's revenge was not a spontaneous act, but the result of careful planning, bitterness, and years of hidden anger. What had started as a teenage heartbreak would soon spiral into a tragedy that no one could have foreseen. The quiet suburban street, usually filled with laughter and light, was about to become the scene of a nightmare that would haunt Millbrook forever. On that foggy November night, the quiet streets of Millbrook held an unsettling stillness, a silence that felt heavier than usual. The Thompson household, which had always been a place of warmth and comfort, was about to face an unimaginable horror. Mark Evans, fueled by years of bitterness and revenge, slipped through the shadows like a ghost. his heart cold and determined. He had prepared meticulously for this moment, bringing weapons, planning his moves, and knowing exactly when the family would be most vulnerable. Mark's entry into the Thompson home was silent but forceful. He broke in through a back door left slightly ajar, a careless mistake that the family would soon regret. Inside, John and Linda were unaware of the danger lurking just beyond their walls. The couple had spent the evening unwinding after a long day, enjoying a quiet dinner while Sarah was at her college dorm, returning home the next weekend for a short visit. The peace of the home was shattered in an instant by Mark's violent intrusion. The horrifying events that followed were difficult for even the most seasoned investigators to comprehend. Mark moved through the house with a terrifying calmness, his rage contained but deadly. John and Linda tried to protect their home and their family with everything they had, but Mark's fury was relentless. The neighbors, who had been roused by distant screams, froze in fear, unsure of what to do or how to help. The atmosphere outside was tense. Some called the police while others watched helplessly, hoping the nightmare would end soon. When the officers arrived, the scene inside the Thompson house was devastating. John and Linda were found lifeless, on the floor of the living room, their bodies marked by the brutality of the attack. Sarah was discovered in one of the bedrooms, severely injured but clinging to life. The sight was shocking. The silence after the chaos filled the house like a suffocating weight. The community that had once felt so safe now grappled with fear and disbelief. How could something so cruel happen in their peaceful town? The investigation that followed revealed the horrifying extent of Mark's plans. He had spent months carefully studying the Thompson family's habits and schedules. Surveillance footage from nearby security cameras showed Mark frequently observing the neighborhood, noting when the family was home or away. Inside his hideout, police found detailed diaries written in Mark's handwriting. These contained cold, calculated plans, grudges listed in chilling detail, and photographs of the Thompson family, some taken secretly from a distance. Each piece of evidence painted a picture of a man who had let obsession consume him entirely. His motives were clear: to make Sarah suffer by destroying the very family that supported her. But the depth of his hatred was more than personal. It was pathological. Mark's writings revealed a twisted justification for his actions, blaming the Thompsons for his failures and promising to make them pay for what he saw as their betrayal. As the police pieced together the night's events, they also discovered how narrowly the tragedy could have been even worse. Mark's intentions had been to harm Sarah most of all, but his attack had been interrupted by the arrival of neighbors who called for help. Those quick actions likely saved Sarah's life, though she remained in critical condition for weeks. The community was left shaken, grappling with the reality that someone they had all seen around, someone who seemed just like any other troubled young man, could commit such a calculated act of violence. The Thompson family's tragedy was a wake-up call to Millbrook, reminding everyone that danger can hide behind the most ordinary faces. As Sarah lay in the hospital, fighting to survive, the town mourned the loss of John and Linda and prayed for her recovery. At the same time, law enforcement began a relentless search for Mark Evans, who had vanished after the attack. The manhunt quickly expanded beyond Millbrook, with officers tracking every possible lead. The community, once close-knit and carefree, now lived under a cloud of fear, waiting to see if justice would catch up with the man who had shattered their world. The nights that followed were tense, with residents locking doors and keeping watch, unsure if Mark would strike again. The story of that tragic night spread beyond Millbrook, drawing attention from regional news outlets. Questions about safety, mental health, and community awareness became the focus of many discussions. The quiet town had been changed forever, and the memory of that night lingered like a shadow over every street corner. In the aftermath, the family's friends and neighbors struggled to make sense of the senseless violence. How could a rejected boy's thirst for revenge lead to such destruction? How had someone so close to their lives been harboring such darkness? These questions haunted Millbrook, a town forever marked by a night that destroyed more than just a family. It shattered the sense of security they once took for granted. In the weeks following the brutal attack on the Thompson family, the entire town of Millbrook was gripped by a mixture of grief, fear, and determination. Sarah remained in the hospital, her condition fragile but steadily improving. The community held vigils, sent messages of support, and gathered together in an effort to bring some comfort to the family and show that they would not be broken by this tragedy. Yet, beneath the surface of hope and solidarity, a dark cloud hung over the investigation. The man responsible for this horrifying act, Mark Evans, was still missing, and the urgency to find him only grew with each passing day. The police launched an extensive manhunt, working around the clock to track down Mark. They checked every possible lead, scoured surrounding towns, and reviewed hours of surveillance footage. The investigation revealed how carefully Mark had planned the attack, but also raised new questions. Detectives discovered that Mark's obsession had deeper roots than previously thought. His notebooks and diaries, which police recovered from his abandoned apartment, revealed more than just a simple revenge plan. They found disturbing entries that hinted at the influence of another person, someone who had encouraged Mark's anger and even helped him prepare for the attack. This mysterious figure was an unknown presence in the background of the case. In one diary, Mark wrote about receiving advice and support from someone he called the friend who understands. Police began to search for this accomplice, determined to uncover the full extent of the conspiracy behind the attack. It became clear that Mark had not acted entirely alone, and that the danger might have extended beyond just the Thompson family. As the investigation expanded, officers interviewed people who had known Mark and searched for anyone who might have been in contact with him in recent months. They found hints of a troubled past marked by isolation and resentment, but also of connections to dangerous individuals. The story of Mark's descent into darkness was more complicated than anyone had imagined, intertwining loneliness, manipulation, and misplaced trust. Meanwhile, Sarah's recovery was slow but remarkable. Despite the physical and emotional scars left by the attack, she showed a fierce determination to heal. Her strength became a symbol of hope for the town, inspiring many who had been shaken by the tragedy. Yet, as she fought to reclaim her life, the knowledge that her attacker was still out there haunted her and everyone who cared for her. A breakthrough came when a local informant contacted the police with a tip about a man named Victor Crane. Victor was an old acquaintance of Mark's, known in some circles for his criminal activities and volatile nature. Investigators quickly linked Victor to Mark through phone records and witness testimonies. It became clear that Victor had played a critical role in fueling Mark's obsession and supplying him with the weapons used in the attack. The revelation that Mark's revenge was not just the act of a desperate, rejected man, but part of a larger, darker plan sent shockwaves through Millbrook. The town had thought the danger was contained in one troubled individual, but now it faced the reality of a wider threat. Victor Crane's involvement meant that this was no longer just a story about heartbreak and obsession. It was a tale of manipulation, violence, and betrayal. Detectives worked tirelessly to build a case against Victor, gathering evidence to show his role in the conspiracy. The investigation painted a picture of a man who had seen Mark's pain as an opportunity, encouraging the worst in him for his own gain. The community grappled with the disturbing thought that the tragedy could have been even worse if not for the quick actions of neighbors and first responders. As the search for Mark and Victor continued, the story grew into a complex web of psychological torment and criminal intent. The two men's fates became intertwined in a battle between justice and chaos, with Sarah caught in the middle. Her journey toward healing was shadowed by the fear that those responsible might escape punishment. The nation watched as the case unfolded, drawn to the story of a family destroyed by revenge and the dark forces behind it. News reports highlighted the dangers of obsession and the need for vigilance in protecting vulnerable people. The story of Millbrook became a cautionary tale, warning others of the consequences when anger and bitterness go unchecked. Through it all, Sarah's resilience remained a beacon of hope. She refused to be defined by the violence done to her family. Instead, she chose to use her experience to raise awareness about stalking, revenge, and the importance of community support. Her voice became a powerful reminder that even in the face of unimaginable pain, healing and justice were possible. The investigation into the attack on the Thompsons revealed not only the devastating effects of Mark's revenge, but also the hidden networks that can influence and amplify such violence. It showed how a single act of heartbreak could spiral into a larger tragedy when fed by darker motives. The search for answers continued, but the story had already left a permanent mark on Millbrook, a reminder that evil can hide in the shadows, waiting for its moment to strike. Months passed since the attack that shattered the Thompson family, and the search for Mark Evans had grown into one of the most intense investigations Millbrook had ever seen. The town remained on edge, still healing from the shock, but desperate for closure. Sarah's recovery had been slow and painful, but her determination to survive and seek justice kept the community united. Meanwhile, law enforcement pushed forward, piecing together every clue in hopes of finding Mark and the mysterious accomplice they believed had helped him. The breakthrough came when a local informant, fearing the growing influence of a dangerous man in the area, stepped forward with a tip about Victor Crane. Victor was a figure known in the criminal underground, a man with a violent past and a reputation for manipulation and intimidation. Once only a whisper in the investigation, Victor's name now became central to the case. Police soon linked him to Mark Evans through a series of phone calls, financial transactions, and witness accounts. Victor Crane was not merely a background character. He was the fuel that had stoked the fire of Mark's rage. Investigators discovered that Victor had supplied Mark with weapons and had encouraged him to follow through with his plan for revenge. The relationship between the two men was one of toxic influence. Victor had preyed on Mark's vulnerability, twisting his pain into something far more dangerous. It became clear that without Victor's involvement, the tragedy might have been prevented. The police organized a carefully planned operation to arrest Victor Crane. Surveillance revealed that Victor was operating out of an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town, a place where he had conducted illegal deals and met with dangerous contacts. The raid was swift and decisive. Victor was taken into custody without incident, but his capture only deepened the mystery surrounding his motivations and connections. During intense questioning, Victor refused to show remorse. Instead, he boasted about manipulating Mark and controlling him like a puppet. He admitted to encouraging the attack, but tried to downplay his role, painting himself as merely a bystander. However, the evidence told a different story. Phone records, witness statements, and Victor's own writings revealed his central role in planning the crime. He had actively pushed Mark toward violence, feeding his obsession and anger. With both men now in custody, Mark having been found hiding in a neighboring county, the trial was set to begin. The courtroom became a stage for a chilling story of obsession, betrayal, and calculated violence. The prosecution painted a clear picture of two men consumed by hatred and revenge, their actions destroying not just the Thompson family, but the peace of an entire community. Sarah attended the trial, her presence a testament to her courage and strength. Though she still bore the scars of the attack, she stood tall, determined to see justice served. The courtroom was packed with supporters from Millbrook, all eager to witness the outcome of the case that had gripped their town for months. The trial revealed shocking details about the extent of Victor's influence over Mark and the careful planning that went into the attack. Witnesses testified about Mark's growing obsession and Victor's role in escalating his anger into violence. Experts described the psychological damage caused by manipulation and the danger of unchecked revenge. The jury listened intently as the story unfolded, each piece of evidence deepening the horror of what had happened. After days of testimony, the jury delivered their verdict. Both Mark Evans and Victor Crane were found guilty of multiple charges, including murder, attempted murder, and conspiracy. The judge sentenced them to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The verdict brought a sense of relief to the town, and especially to Sarah, who had fought through unimaginable pain to see justice done. Despite the conviction, the scars left by the attack remained. The Thompson family's home was empty, a silent reminder of lives forever changed. Sarah chose to channel her grief into action, dedicating herself to raising awareness about the dangers of obsession, stalking, and revenge. She spoke publicly about her experience, warning others about the hidden threats that can lurk behind familiar faces. Millbrook slowly began to heal, but the story of the Thompson family served as a lasting warning. It showed how rejection and pain, when left to fester, could explode into devastating violence. It exposed the dangers of manipulation and the importance of community support in preventing such tragedies. The revenge that shattered a family had also united a town, reminding everyone of the fragile nature of safety and the power of resilience. Sarah's journey from victim to survivor became a symbol of hope, a powerful testament to the human spirit's ability to rise above even the darkest of tragedies. The memory of the Thompsons lived on, not just in sorrow, but in the strength of a community forever changed by one night's devastating act.